Here is an early set of pointers for your redraft fantasy football leagues this coming season. You can find the full thread on Twitter. I dropped it. My Twitter handle is at P2WFantasy. Attacking the waiver wire. So you want to be aggressive if it means making your team better at the end of the day. Also, you want to have that line between, hey, this guy might be the guy for a system the rest of the season, or this guy had a big performance because other people were out. Use your IR spots every single week. If somebody hits the IR or they are listed as out and you are able to put them on your IR slot, that can be useful, especially if you can pick up somebody else as a dart throw before the weekend games and beat the waiver wire the next week. I had a whole other thread about trading, but the number one thing for redraft when it comes to trading is keeping in mind that the goal is to make your team better at the end of the day. You should be okay with losing a trade if it means that number one thing, that your team is better at the end of the day. You want to avoid lateral trading as well. You don't have to live and die by the calculator, but trading is important in redraft when you are playing to win. Be prepared for your actual draft. Having a list of players ranked in tiers could be important instead of just a straight list of rankings because it helps you pivot during the actual draft. You want to be aware of some injuries that might happen in timelines for those injuries. Also, if you have a trusted source that's consistent and has some information to dig into before the draft that might be useful to dive into those sleepers, breakouts, busts, etc. Fill your bench with upside. So when you are juggling guys to take in your fantasy football draft, you might look to say, hey, this guy at this point of the draft might be able to touch the football more than the rest of these guys that are in this group for their ADP. Also, look for certain things. Can this guy give me a high yardage day? Can he give me some touchdown upside? Drafting guys that can score you 15 to 20 points might be more beneficial than the safe guys that weekly will give you only 8 points. Be smart with your starting lineup. Don't flex players that play on Thursdays. Keep injuries in mind and be prepared to pivot if you need to on Sundays. Pay attention to team matchups that can be important, and also pay attention to changing roles of players on their team. Don't give up. Personally, I had a team last year that was 2-5 at one point, and that team ended up going to the championship just because I stayed active and stayed consistent. And if you do those things, even with a rough start, you can still make it to the playoffs. Then last, just, be aware of your team settings, know the league rules, know your league mates. It can be important down the stretch for your league. Being active and being consistent at the end of the day is how to play to win.